Welcome to Tutorial 5 of History of the English Language 2020 course. This lesson will be about sound change, also known as phonological change. The reading for this lesson is Schendel's Historical Linguistics, Chapter 5. There are two types of sound change or phonological change. Change that takes place at the level of the concrete production of sounds, phonetic change, and change that takes place at the abstract level of the system, phonemic change. Within these two types, we will find vowel changes and consonant changes in the history of English. Phonetic changes can affect both vowels and consonants, and they can be related to the manner and the place in which the sounds are produced. Some vowel changes include palatalization, which is the fronting of vowels, as can be seen in the plural of foot, feet. Velarization, when the tongue moves towards the velum, and diphthongization, when pure vowels become glides. There are other changes too. Vowels might be raised or lowered, and the degree of lip rounding might also change. One example of a consonant change, which is phonetic, is parentization, which is the change from stop to a fricative, for example, from a bilabial p to a fricative labiodental f. An example of parentization is pre-English and will be illustrated by Grimm's law, which we will see later on. There are other types of sound change which can be classified within phonetic change. Assimilation, when one sound is adapted based on a neighboring sound, and dissimilation, which is the opposite, two neighboring sounds which are similar become different. Lenition, that is the weakening of sounds, deletion of sounds, or disappearance of sounds. There is also insertion of sounds, epenthesis, and the interchange of sounds, metathesis. Many of these phonetic changes have taken place in the history of English proper. Some of them can be exemplified as changes happening before English, or as phonetic adaptations from words that English has borrowed. It is important to see that some of these changes are not only diachronic changes, but also synchronic. That is, in present-day English, during the production of sounds, some of these changes might also take place. Phonetic change affecting vowels and consonants may be conditioned or unconditioned. Conditioned changes take place when there is a specific phonetic environment that triggers the change. Unconditioned changes take place irrespective of the context. In English, there have been instances of both. Some vowel and consonant changes have been conditioned by the neighboring sounds. Other vowel and consonant changes have taken place in all contexts. As we said before, phonemic change is related to the abstract phonemic system of a particular language. Here, it is important to tell the difference between phonemes and allophones. Phonemes make up a set of sounds which are linguistically contrastive and in complementary distribution. This means that different phonemes can give rise to minimal pairs or contrasts in identical environments. Allophones, on the other hand, are non-significant variants of each phoneme. In other words, phonemes may be realized by more than just one speech sound. The selection of those variants can be conditioned or unconditioned, as we saw in the case of phonetic change. For phonemic change, we must know that sound systems have a tendency towards symmetry. And there are two important changes in the history of English. In relation to vowels, the Great Vowel Shift, a chain shift which took place during the Middle English period. It developed in different steps, and it affected long vowel sounds which were raised. The exception were the two highest vowels, E and U. They could not be raised any further, and so they became diphthongized. The Great Vowel Shift can account for the pronunciation of words like meat, house, and mice in present-day English. In relation to consonants, the symmetry of the system of fricatives. Before Middle English, the system of fricatives was not balanced, because the voiced fricatives were allophones of the voiceless ones. During the Middle English period, with the influx of French words, a voice contrast between fricatives arose, which was to become central for English. The result led to greater symmetry for the system of fricatives in English, which now shows matching pairs of voiced and voiceless sounds. From these examples of phonemic change, we can see that there are two types in which phonemes can change. There is phonemic merger, in which two different phonemes merge into one, and there is also phonemic split, in which one phoneme splits into two different phonemes. Finally, let us see two laws of change, Grimm's law and Werner's law. These laws are not specific to English. They can account for some of the sound changes that took place in Indo-European, particularly in the evolution from Indo-European to Germanic and Romance languages. Grimm's law involved different sets of changes. Indo-European voiceless stops, p, t, k, became voiceless fricatives, th, th, and h, in Germanic languages. In other words, Grimm's law accounts for a case of sparentization. Other sets of changes include that Indo-European voiced stops became voiceless, and that aspirated voiced stops became unaspirated. However, some words in languages like Latin and Greek did not develop the expected fricative sound. Instead, the Indo-European voiceless stop evolved into voiced fricatives. Werner's law can explain this change. The unexpected voicing took place when the sounds involved were not initial and when the vowel before them was not stressed. The original location of stress was retained in Greek and Latin, but in Germanic, stress eventually became fixed on the initial syllable. Werner's law is also relevant in the evolution of some sounds involved in inflectional systems. Grimm's law and Werner's law help us distinguish Germanic languages from languages such as Latin and Greek, and modern languages like French and Spanish. French and Spanish are closer to Latin, and so they kept the original voiceless stops or developed voiced fricatives in some cases. That is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to read the text and do the activities to work on specific examples of all the sound changes that we dealt with here.